to Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu and make them offers to join the India alliance. So far, let me just tell you where that is at this point. We had Jairam Ramesh of the Congress put out a tweet where he's promised special category status to Andhra Pradesh if Chandrababu Naidu joins. At the same time, JDU senior party leader KC Tyagi has said JDU is part of the NDA and will remain part of the NDA. What I found really interesting that is apparently in the Congress press conference, Rahul Gandhi has said that tomorrow they will do a meeting. They will then decide how to approach these two entities. A little sarkari of them to wait until tomorrow, but bringing in Aditya Menon of the Quint. Aditya, uh, what have you heard so far? Is there rumbling of backroom conversation, front room conversation, some negotiations happening on Twitter?
The Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge is also the head of the India Alliance. He said it in as many words during the press conference that we'll be speaking to both our current and future allies. So he's clearly hinting that they will be reaching out to other parties. I think, and Mr. Kharge has that kind of personality and he can sort of make those moves and arrives at some kind of consensus both within the alliance and also reach out to other parties. But of course, the numbers aren't entirely in their favor because there's still a 60 seat gap between the two alliances. So even if they would need both Nitish as well as Chandrababu Naidu to shift this side, and also the neutrality of someone like the Jagan Mohan Reddy, who still has won a handful of seats. Because the risk of getting Chandrababu Naidu on the side means that Jagan Mohan Reddy goes
Yeah,
on the other
yeah.
side. I think it's a little too tight. They would need at least 10 more seats to change hands before they can get into a position in which even the shift of these two people will help them.
Yeah,
Currently,
and
that
Nitish Kumar is down to 12 seats now. We were talking about 15
yes.
earlier, but according to the Election Commission website, uh, Chandrababu Naidu now has 16 and Nitish Kumar has 12.
12. So 28 together. The 28 going away from NDA would still put them at 265, and 28 going towards India would put them at 260. I don't think I mean, the only way forward is that President Draupadi Murmu will ask Prime Minister Modi to have the first shot at forming the government. So I don't think there is any other way that is going to play out.
Yeah.
Wha-
Just
Whether
bringing
they will be able to get the numbers and convince the allies to stay together is a different thing.
Yeah. Just bringing in Mr. Sanjay Hegde. Mr. Hegde, is it likely that the India bloc is at this point just trying to keep the BJP on its toes by saying, hey, we're still in conversation with your supposed allies when you form government?
Well, everybody will be talking to everybody,
Mm.
and people will have their own agenda points. The first thing, of course, is that this air of dictatorship, this air of I'll lock you up and throw away the key, that has to go. But if after all that you hand back the key to the same man, how can you trust him? There is a very huge trust deficit.
Hmm.
And within the party, we do not know the dynamics yet. We do
Yeah.
not exactly know how many people who come to be elected are whose people. Do they owe it entirely to the Modi Shah combination, or do they owe it to regional satraps? Do they owe it to a Yogi Adityanath who possibly would not exactly welcome who would welcome a BJP government but not exactly a Amit Shah government? And I also suspect that a lot of the demands might first not ask for Mr. Modi's resignation, but it might be directed towards Amit Shah. So, what kind of deals will be struck? And there are going to be deals uh, which will be struck with both sides. Uh, there was a story about somebody who was described as a promising young man because
Mm.
he was promising everybody to marry her. So, so it's like that. There are many promising old men among the politicians.
It's very interesting. I'm reading some stories that say Nitish Kumar has been offered Deputy Prime Minister by the India Bloc. Very interesting. Because at one point, he pasted the India Bloc together with his own two hands. He could have been the Prime Ministerial candidate. But now that he's hopped in, likely to hop back, he'll get Deputy Prime Minister. And I wonder if that's enough for him. Manish Anand, what are you picking up from the ground tonight?
I think the first 2 terms of Prime Minister Narendra Modi was all about stability at the center. So that stability factor is probably gone for the time being, because the single party majority that Modi claimed for the first 2 terms is no more there. Now he's dependent, of course, on allies, and Amit Shah has already rung up the alliance partners like Chirag Paswan, Nitish Kumar, and Chandrababu Naidu. So tomorrow NDA meeting is taking place in the national capital. So all efforts would be made to keep the alliance partners in good humor. So unlike 2019, when just one portfolio was offered to the alliance partners, this time the alliance partners would be pampered by the BJP in a big way, and Prime Minister Modi would still like to continue in his position. And there would be attempts to make deflections. Maybe the BJP will spotlight the victory in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh with TDP to say that no, we have gained 2 more states in our kitty. But overall, predicting Nitish Kumar is a nightmare for any political observers. In fact, Nitish Kumar privately claims to his friends that even if CIA stays with him for 24 hours, that would not be able to predict his next move. So it would be very challenging to predict Nitish Kumar's move, what he is up to. But one of the last speeches Nitish Kumar made in the Lok Sabha elections are a few indicators. He appealed to the Muslim community, and he talked about building, boundary walls on the crematorium, and he talked about improving the educational infrastructure in the madrasa. So somehow he was hinting to the 2025 assembly elections. And now Bihar is not faring that badly in comparison to Uttar Pradesh. The alliance partners of the BJP, they are winning almost 29 Lok Sabha seats, in contrast to Uttar Pradesh, where it's a big dip. So Nitish Kumar probably may like to cement his position as a chief minister in Bihar, and he may his aides say that he's very uncomfortable with Rashtriya Janata Dal. Because Tejasvi Yadav is very assertive, and RJD, once the party revives, it may pose a big challenge to the JDU. So that factor has to be seen. But N. Chandrababu Naidu is very unpredictable. In the past, he has done a volte face, and he is the real kingmaker. And the number that is being thrown right now is fragile with instability at the center. Even if the government is formed, never know what will happen 6 months later.
So here's my question to the whole panel, whoever wants to take it. Why has the BJP not been, not staked claim to form government with the NDA so far? I mean, it's 7 o'clock in the evening. It's unlikely these numbers are going to change much from where they are right now. Why is the delay, Aditya?
I think the party is probably assessing and probably making sure that they have all their entire pack in order, reaching out to all the allies, smaller allies, bigger allies, maybe even reach out to parties who can sort of come into the NDA fold. I think they'll probably do all that homework and only then stake claim. Probably the result. Yeah.
They will wait for the NDA meeting tomorrow. Once the meeting gets over, probably it would be proper for all the NDA leaders to go to President Draupadi Murmu together with the letters of the support. So before the NDA meeting, that outreach to President is least probable. Meeting will take place first, and the BJP will get everybody on board. The official letter has to be given to the BJP president, and then all the leaders would go to president. So it will not happen, I suppose, until the meeting gets over tomorrow.
Well,
So then-
the BJP,
Yes.
BJP also has these bad memories of Devendra Fadnavis rushing to the governor to stake claim.
Yes.
And if you go back in time, you must remember Sonia Gandhi, after bringing down Vajpayee, saying that we have the numbers, and it took 5-6 years to recover. So, in these matters, uh, an unnecessary haste sometimes comes to bite you, and especially when, after having made a huge claim of 400 plus, you are now at the edges of 290. So I think it is better that everybody takes a deep breath,
Yeah.
let people work the phones through the night, and then maybe tomorrow we will see the situation solidify.
Mr. Hegde, we have one of our audience members, Annamalai AN. I'm assuming not that Annamalai, who is asking, do you see any other PM from the NDA? And since you had mentioned this earlier this morning when we were talking about, what's your opinion now at 290?
No, even at, forget 290, please check what the BJP is at. And
Yeah.
the BJP is, according to one source, around 238.
239 according to the Election Commission.
Yes, but some other sources that I'm watching, 238. So is it closer to 240 or is it closer to 230? And who are the 230? Are they people who are the Modi Shah Jannisaris, or are they beholden to other forces? And it is then there was also something that I saw somewhere, that the RSS says that first have a poll taken among the MPs before you decide your prime minister face. If there is a secret vote, will Modi get a majority out there, and will the parties then stand in line? That also is an important question. If there is an alternate face, yes, Gadkari is the most probable alternate face. The others that can come to the top of the mind are Rajnath Singh and people like that, because especially if you want to hold UP together, despite the losses, it might be that somebody who is seasoned like Rajnath Singh might also be an option.
What do you believe? And I with the caveat to our audience that we are speculating here, what do you believe would be the future for Mr. Amit Shah? Do you think that the duo will continue to hold power?
Well, now they can't wield the amount of power that they previously did. And it may also be that we will allow Mr. Modi to have a historic third term as long as there is no Amit Shah around. That also could be one of the conditions that people put. And whether that is acceptable or not acceptable. See, in the old days when Stalin fell, they did not attack Stalin directly. They went after Beria. So one of the rules of the laws of power is that the fall of the favorite is often enacted. That the king then sacrifices the favorite and then puts all the blame on that favorite, so that another term happens. Power games the world over are all the same. The person in the hot seat, in the Iron Throne, will try to continue to maintain his position there. There will be those who will try to shake it, and there will be certain random events which nobody can predict, which can also come in.
But we have Mr. Nalin Kohli of the BJP joining us for a few minutes. Mr. Kohli, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time. From within the BJP, Mr. Kohli, are you seeing this as a victory? Are you seeing this as a defeat? What is the BJP's official response to these numbers?
I'm sorry to laugh about this, but how can a victory be a defeat? I mean, 272 is the halfway mark which leads to government formation. Sorry, Faye, but honestly, it is funny to ask it in that way, because I've yet to find someone who crosses the halfway line, makes it to government formation, to consider that as a defeat. Certainly the numbers are less. There's no question about that. But if that is to be treated as a defeat, then I like to leave the victory of that sort to our opposition political parties. They can happily celebrate their victory if they call it so. I think the fact of the matter is, the election has come. We've got the result. It's a clear majority for the NDA, which is a pre-poll alliance. And we must look at it politically, because the concept of a pre-poll alliance being invited to form government was really created by former President Narayanan ji. He was the one who brought that thing that a pre-poll alliance will be invited first, not a post-poll alliance. And that's how the rule is in terms of convention. Second is, as far as the BJP and NDA is concerned, yes, the BJP has not got the 272 mark on itself, which it got for 2 consecutive elections, which is 14 and 19. But it's historic that the BJP would be in a government for a 3rd consecutive term. It's only happened with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1951. For 3 consecutive terms, you had the same person lead the government in, or it was the same party in government for 3.
For 3 terms.
Maybe, Sanjay. And I won't quibble on that. But, the fact of the matter is that we do have a majority, even if we don't have it on our own. And just as a lesson of history, since you wish to go back to that, that was the first government after independence. So I would say then where it has landed, the Congress to not even reach 3 digits or just about touch it after those many years is a testimony for how the Congress has squandered that away. On the contrary, how we have risen from the ashes from 2 onwards.
The BJP was at 2 once, right?
Yes, I know. Why do you think I said? Yes, Sanjay. My dear, Sanjay, you just had to hear me. I would say, as we have risen from the ashes, that was the second part of my sentence. As we've risen from the ashes from 2 to 272 plus. So that's how politics is. And, it's not about your liking or my liking. It's about accepting the verdict.
Mr. Kohli, why is it that the
Can
NDA
I come and say? Can I come and say?
One second, Mr. Hegde. Mr. Kohli, why is it that the NDA has not approached the president yet to form government? Are any of your allies still in doubt? Is Nitish Kumar or Chandrababu Naidu in conversation with the India bloc? Can you give us some?
First, I wouldn't be aware of that. 2, I would just point out to what I heard on a media channel while I was appearing on it, that the Prime Minister and Chandrababu Naidu ji had spoken. 3, if the Congress party put out this feeler that they would be talking with our allies, I'm sure having a conversation, it's not a dictatorship, it's a democracy. So, I mean, if they can have a conversation, we can have a conversation with anyone too. So a conversation between political parties is not a threat. Conversations happen all the time. I see no reason to doubt that we will form the government. As far as I have known over my 22 years in the party, you don't stake a claim of the party in any party, as a matter of fact. Immediately, I think you have a parliamentary party meeting, you have your MPs, they then elect the leader. That's how the norm has been. Just as, tickets are distributed after the parliamentary party and election committee sit. So you'll have that normal procedure. It's not about here are the results and let's go and form the government immediately. Those conventions and traditions and systems have to be followed.
Nalinji, one question from here. I'm Manish Anand this side.
Mr. Hegde wanted to say something. Mr. Hegde, go ahead, and then Mr. Anand.
No, the point is that once you said 400 par, and then the electorate it just gives you under 250. The mandate of the country is decisively against what you claimed. Rajiv Gandhi was the single largest party in 1989. Yet he did not then stake claim. And the VP Singh government came in. The VP Singh government came in with its allies, and then it fell. It may well be that the BJP would be better advised to play the same game that Indira Gandhi and the rest played in 1977. Let the opposition come in and let their alliance fail. Today, if there is a rush to power with unstable allies, the BJP probably risks much more. But anyway, I'm not a BJPite. That's for the BJP to decide.
Mr. Kohli, do you want to respond?
Well, I mean, I think Sanjay and I both are colleagues at the bar. We practice in the court. And the one thing that I've learned in my practice of law is that, literally our clients come and seek advice. We never go to the clients to give advice. So Sanjay is right when he ends it by saying it's for the BJP to decide. That's really his view. And it's not a game as far as I see it. Politics is, after 22 years being full-time in it, it's really far more complex than just what we sometimes discuss on television. And I don't mean it as an offense to what Sanjay is saying or somebody else may say. I genuinely don't mean it as an offense to that. But on the
Manish,
other part, which was Rajiv Gandhi and about pointing that we've lost, equally pertinent are two things that the Congress party may wish to reflect on. They said we will get 295. They haven't got 295. So is that a resounding defeat? And then the Congress party and their allies kept saying democracy is in danger. After winning so many seats, is democracy in danger? What about the EVMs? Are the EVMs malfunctioning or are they manipulated after winning so many seats? So I personally feel, that's my view, they should be actually apologizing to the nation by going abroad and constantly saying democracy is in danger. And what we today have is a very resounding result for everyone. I mean, the opposition has also got votes. They've won in several places. The BJP has lost in several places. The BJP has swept in other places. So, I mean, that is a healthy democracy. You don't need more proof. And the Election Commission is responsible for conducting that election.
right. Manish, Anand had a question.
Results
Anand,
are
Anand,
despite the
Anand,
Election Commission.
Nilanji,
I-
Prime
One
Minister
second,
Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi won from Varanasi by about 1.5 lakh votes. That's a big dip in the vote margin of Mr. Modi from Varanasi. Smriti Irani lost from Amethi Lok Sabha seat, and BJP is the number 2 party in Uttar Pradesh now. Who will take the accountability for such a big loss of seats in Uttar Pradesh?
So when I analyze it dispassionately, and I think as trained lawyers, we tend to look at a file as it is. At least that's what we are trained to do, not look at a file as we wish to see it. That's the argument we make after we study the file. The fact of the matter is that the BJP has to really go back and reflect on 4 or 5 things. It's Uttar Pradesh, which was responsible for bringing a majority in 2 successive elections, 14 and 19. Is that difference of 30 seats now, which has cost us the majority position on our own. I think Maharashtra, where certainly the BJP has come down dramatically from the 42 seats, along with our erstwhile allies that we had in 2019 to the current situation. And 3 other states I would bring in, that's Bengal, Haryana, and Rajasthan, where we'll have to go back and analyze those losses. On the other hand, I think while all of this is happening, we need to pause for a minute and talk about Odisha, which is historic. The BJP is forming a government on its own and has got 18 or 19 seats till I last saw the counting, 18 out of 21. That's huge. In the Northeast, while yes, some of our allies have lost, and that would be a cause of concern, we've held on in Assam, despite the so-called Yatra. And we've done very well in Madhya Pradesh, 29. We've done pretty decently after a comeback in Karnataka, where we've gone up to 18 odd seats. So I think the BJP has certain positives in selecting our ally in Andhra Pradesh. That has been another thing which has gone in our favor. So there are certain positives, certain negatives. We will have to learn from the negatives, and we'll have to hold on to those positives.
Mr. Rajan Mahan is with us. Mr. Mahan, do you have a question for Mr. Kohli? I'm not sure if he can.
So I, Faye, would regrettably have to move on. So perhaps a last question or a comment if it's coming, and then I'll leave you to continue with your guests, and my good wishes to all after that.
All right,
Mr. Kohli, if I were to ask you the last question, what happened to Amrit Kal, Viksit Bharat, Ram Temple, Ram Rajya? What happened to your narratives?
So with regard to, I think, many of our ideological positions stand implemented. So I think that's not a negative by any standard. I mean, 370 was one of our ideological positions, one of the 3 that we always held. It's been implemented. The same continues with regard to the Ram Temple. We always stood for either a negotiated settlement or through a court order, and that there should be a magnificent Ram Temple. It stands implemented. So I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a great positive. It's been achieved. 70 years was the whole journey of the BJP from the Jansangh in 1952 to ensuring that you had Article 370, which according to me was a terrible vestige of independence, which led to separatism and terrorism there. It's gone. It isn't there. 58% people voted in the Jammu and Kashmir election. That's probably a historic high. You had to struggle to reach 25 and 30%. So I think these are great positives. We have an agenda of Viksit Bharat. We've certainly moved the economy from number 10 to number 5, perhaps to 4. Sometimes it moves to 4 and 5 with a target of 3. These are unfinished agendas. And I see no reason why the government should not continue on that path and continue forward.
Mr. Kohli, should we assume that this coalition government that will be formed by the BJP under the NDA will be led by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Will the cabinet be largely similar, or are we going to see changes there as
So
well?
that is the prerogative. The cabinet is the prerogative of the prime minister. And that is something, honestly, I don't think anyone would be qualified to even make a guess. That's not the party. The process is very simple. Mr. Modi, as prime minister and as the leader, has led the party to two phenomenal victories and has led it to a coalition victory in 2024. So there are three victories under his belt. And while, of course, there will be people who will start in the media or in the opposition parties, profess advice, pass comments about it that he didn't get the full majority on his own. The fact is that he has got a majority for the coalition. So these are also the positives that have to be seen. The BJP is three times, roughly 2.5 times the seats of its nearest opposition party, which is the Congress, the grand old party. There is no other party that comes close to less than 6 times. We are 6 times over and above every political party in the country. So I think to run down the BJP and not give it its due after a third election, which is historic by itself, I think that is a tad unfair.
What happened to Congress Mukt Bharat? You all went
That
on
is an
with that
agenda from
arrogance.
2000.
That
Yes,
was
I'll answer that.
arrogance.
I don't need the full question. No, I don't need the full question. I'll answer it because in 2014 I
That's
said
part
this.
of your arrogance. No, you do not
Come
listen
on.
to the full question.
Come on, Sanjay. If you want to make it personal, I really can be far better than that. Honestly, I can.
I'm not
I'm
making
giving
it
you an
personal.
answer straight. I'm in a hurry to
giving
move.
it.
Sorry,
I'm-
Sanjay, and I'll say it on your face. I'll say you're
I'm
being
saying
rude
it
because
on
I'm
your
in a hurry
face.
and I'm actually,
No, no.
I've got another channel waiting and I'm being polite to answer it. And I said I'll answer it straight. That's your arrogance speaking and your hatred for the BJP. So be it. You are as much a citizen of the country to have hatred for a political party as anyone else. And I'll give you a straight answer on that, which I said in 14, I'll say it in 24. Congress Mukt Bharat is an agenda about the thinking of the Congress, and certainly a thinking that led to almost Jammu Kashmir going out of the country, a thinking that said we will create a second class with the majority community when you have in the Constitution Article 14, which clearly says every citizen is equal, that you will create a class in which one citizen class on the basis of religion will be more equal is something that has to be fought for. Because in our government, we would never ever treat anyone, whether it's Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Parsi, Jew, as a second-class citizen when it comes to the benefits of the government.
We've seen that.
We've
seen it. We've seen it. Come on.
We're going to stop. No,
Come
one
on. The
second.
rest of the panel also doesn't agree with
That's quite a joke.
I'm not looking for your speaking on the behalf of the others, and I don't think at the beginning of this anyone gave you a wakalatnama or a power of attorney to speak for them.
All right, Mr. Nalin Kohli, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thank you. And good
on-
wishes, Ed. Thank you.
of the BJP, saying, of course, that from the NDA, he said, will form the government. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be the Prime Ministerial face of that government. The cabinet after that, he said, will be the prerogative of the Prime Minister. And we have Mr. Rajan Mahan joining us right now. Mr. Mahan, interesting sort of moves. Neither of the two have gone forward or, sort of attempted to form the government yet. Obviously, conversations are taking place, Mr. Mahan?
Oh, most certainly conversations are taking place in terms of who's going to come which way and how can we woo this leader or how can we woo that party. That conversation is definitely going on. But Faye, what I have been struck about in the last several hours is almost a deafening silence that one is hearing from the top brass in the BJP. I mean, there's hardly any major leader in the party who's come out and said anything. So there is a churn within the BJP also. And one of my sources just a little while ago actually told me that the RSS is putting its foot down and saying very categorically that this time around there has to be a proper secret ballot within the BJP MPs for them to actually choose who's going to lead the party and the possible coalition government that the BJP could be forming. So that may be very, very interesting, very, very important. And it is interesting that the party has gone through with quite a hammering, if you look at it, from the, the dropping definitely more than 60 seats. And yet no very senior leader in the party is either saying giving us any reasons as to why this has happened. Nobody is taking any responsibility of the fairly strong sort of decimation that the BJP is seeing in UP and in states like Rajasthan. So, I mean, who is responsible? Who's going to take the responsibility? And who indeed is going to lead the party is something that is being debated, discussed, I think, in hushed tones, and we'll have to probably wait several more hours, maybe even a day or two, to find out what exactly is going on within the BJP, which may well be possibly the most important aspect of the verdict that has been delivered. Fair?
I understand there are statements coming in from the Prime Minister. Just one second. He's basically said that people have placed their faith in the NDA for a third consecutive term. It's a historic feat in India's history. Mr. Mahan?
Well, I mean, it's a good statement to make, and it's great to see that it's suddenly in the last few days we are seeing so much talk about NDA, etc., etc. For years, we've hardly heard anything about NDA. So it's interesting that now the Prime Minister is actually having to talk about his allies, and he's talking about people reposing faith in the NDA, not so much in the BJP, because the BJP certainly not got a clear verdict to try and rule this country. So I think he also is aware that there are large segments within his own party who are not particularly comfortable with the way things have been going. I mean, let's not make any bones about this. This election was centrally about Narendra Modi. He made himself the central figure. He made himself like this larger than life figure. If you look at any poster, any hoarding, anything, the one person dominating the show was the Prime Minister. So now he has to be bold enough, I think. Was it Sanjay who was mentioning how Rajiv Gandhi had taken on the responsibility and said, yes, we've not got the mandate from the people? So I hope somebody in the BJP is going to be man enough to now start owning up that the people haven't really given the kind of mandate that they've been trumpeting about. The Prime Minister's entire this larger than life presence in this country has been built around the electoral successes. Now, if he can't ensure or manage those electoral successes, there has to be a churn, and there is a churn, we are being told, within the BJP itself also, and within the larger political landscape of the country. Fair?
You're still muted.
Faye, we can't hear you.
Sorry. So the tweet basically says, I will bow to Janta Janardhan and assure that we will continue the good work of the last decade. So the Prime Minister sort of making it clear that he will form government, he will be Prime Minister, and he will continue to fulfill, as he's called, the aspirations of people. Now, a couple of things that were on the cards for the BJP going straight into the new term. They kept talking about uniform civil code, one nation, one election. The redrawing of constituencies for elections, delimitation, and the women's reservation bill. How many of these things in a coalition format do you think will still be on the cards for them? Aditya, do you want to answer that question?
I think uniform civil code is going to be very difficult, especially because now the government is critically dependent on Janata Dal United and Chandrababu Naidu's party. So I think that's very unlikely. As far as women's reservation is concerned, I think that they can be more hopeful, because even the Congress is in favor of that bill, the left is in favor of that bill, TMC is in favor of that bill. So I don't think that will face any major hurdles. Delimitation, of course, I think that is it depends on how sharp various parties are in recognizing the dangers of delimitation. Because Assam, I've mentioned it earlier also, we saw how there is a seat Barpeta. It has overnight been turned from a Muslim majority seat to a Hindu majority seat, and it has been won by the BJP's ally this time. It was won by the Congress last time. So it's that win is entirely due to delimitation. and two Muslim majority seats have sort of been combined into one, which is the Dhubri seat, where I think Congress has defeated Badruddin Ajmal. I think this can happen in many other states. Punjab, we have an MLA who has already spoken out against the prospect of delimitation in Punjab. I think delimitation parties need to be much more aware to resist it. But I think at every point, wherever BJP tries to push its ideological agenda, it won't be as easy as it was in the last 10 years.
Mr. Hegde, do you see the BJP being able to push through any of these things, or is it going to have to become much more collaborative and work differently from now on?
Well, it's again a question of which BJP. Are we going to have a repeat of the Prime Minister? Then, unless he has a different number two or a different style of working and a different style of persuading, I rather think that he would be coasting in his third term, just happy to be Prime Minister. Each of these big ones. Now, the thing that really worries me, and I do hope that members of the bar who are watching, are the three major criminal acts. They're set to go into force on the 1st of July. The notification should be delayed because a lot of India's democracy and a lot of India's civil rights are being sought to be stifled through those acts. So the first thing is that must be put on hold. I hope that even the allies, if the allies decide to go with the NDA, that should be a condition.
Manish Anand, we had Mr. Rajan Mahan tell us that there's some rumbling from within the BJP also about how they want this new NDA government to be stacked up. Is that what you're picking up also?
We have to see that the BJP for the last 10 years, since the advent of Modi and Shah era in the central BJP, the leadership that the party has, for example, if you look at the BJP headquarters, the national office bearers, there are hardly any general secretaries who can, speak their open minds. So you have general secretaries who basically toe the instructions by the top brass of the party. So the leadership that Mr. Rajan probably is talking about is outside the party infrastructure. So those who may not be in the within the echelons of the party. So if you're talking about Nagpur connections, then we already had a lot of stories going around that the RSS in this election had kept a bit of distance from the BJP. The RSS was not actively managing the polling booth the manner in which they did previously in the last 48 hours. So they confined basically to the voters' awareness. So if the RSS is able to pull the strings, then we may see the changes, but I doubt that those things will happen so soon. Right now, the BJP as an organization is fully in the control of Mr. Amit Shah, and his chosen men are running the affairs. And I don't think within the party you will have any contrasting or discordant voices coming forth. The likes of Uma Bharti or others, those who are on the sidelines of the BJP may come up with some statements, but from within the BJP or the decision makers, or for instance, the parliamentary board, which hardly has any relevance in the last 10 years, and the members are packed as the chosen people. So I don't expect any rumblings coming from there. So what I suppose is that Mr. Modi is approaching 74 years of age. So if he, because he's a man of organization, he has a very strong feedback channel. If he senses that the ground is slipping under his feet and he is getting less popular than what he was previously, then he may agree, or guided by some elders within the RSS or his colleagues, that he should gracefully retire at the age of 75 and pass on the baton to somebody else. which would be more amenable to coalition politics. There is one more important thing here to mention is that Venkaiah Naidu, when he was the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs in the first 2 years of the Modi government, he did most of the back and forth negotiations between the alliance partners as well as the opposition parties. Right now, there is nobody who has that kind of skills within the BJP or in the Modi dispensation. So you have to find the right person for that position to handle the NDA affairs now, because the NDA coordination committee has to be formed now. There will be a coordinator there. So we will have to watch out in the next 7 to 8 days. We will see a lot of new changes, but I doubt there would be any rumblings right away.
Well, it did seem from Naren Kohli's answers that the BJP is keen to give the Prime Minister his historic third term, in comparison to Nehru, who had 3 terms, because he mentioned that. And responding to what Manish Anand said, the Prime Minister will turn 75 in 2 years. Nitin Gadkari is 67 years old. Amit Shah is 59 years old. Rajnath Singh is around the same age. So at that point, who will be young enough to take over, and what that takeover will look like is perhaps a separate conversation for a separate day. But it does look like they're keen to give him that historic mandate of he gets 3 straight terms, right? Mr. Mahan, you want to comment?
Well, our friend mentioned that within the BJP, there's not going to be anybody coming out. That does seem like the case, but what I was mentioning was pressure from the RSS, and we do know that there have been considerable frictions within, in the equation between the RSS and the BJP, and we also know that there is a large chunk of RSS-backed leaders who still hold considerable prominence within the BJP. For instance, Nitin Gadkari, who everyone knows is possibly the favorite of the old men in Nagpur. So in that sense, one interesting idea is that the BJP may indeed give Narendra Modi a chance for about 1.5 years. And next year, when he becomes 75, and then this whole Marg Darshak policy, which they had framed 10 years ago, which then left a lot of the very eminent old folks at that time outside the government formation, that may well be the escape route, and that may be some kind of a consensus through which they can keep Narendra Modi, and yet in about 1 year or so get a new face in to lead the party and possibly the coalition that they are going to be heading. So interesting times.
We have Mr. Sanjay Jha joining us. Mr. Sanjay Jha is an author and a political commentator. He's been with the Congress for many years. Mr. Jha, you sent out a prediction a couple of days ago. Seems to be pretty much in line with what has happened. But I want to understand from you if you believe the India bloc is currently chipping away at the NDA's allies.
Well, I think that's always an option. I think if you look at the supporters of the India Alliance, or the people who have really slogged it out over the last 10 years, battling some very, very extreme headwinds, they will all want to see the India Alliance form the government. Because eventually, if you are in government, you are able to then start to put whatever your ideology is or your manifesto in practice. Obviously, it's not going to be easy because they don't have the numbers. They are short of the numbers. And unless, of course, both the TDP and the JDU move away from the NDA alliance. Is that possible? Frankly, Faye, as you know very well, politics is the art of the possible. So nothing really truly can be ruled out. And I think, given the fact that, one of the most extraordinary aspects, Faye, of this particular election, and why it is, in my opinion, remarkable, is because in my living memory, I've never seen a more lopsided, not a level playing field election at all. I mean, the opposition had no resources. I'm aware of that because I know there was no way they could have organized so many rallies and done any campaigns. The Congress, for example, was doing a brilliant digital campaign. They didn't have money to put it out on TV. So, they were cash strapped. many of the leaders were under fear of all kinds of arrests. They were already in serious trouble. The Congress had lost a lot of leaders before the elections, and we know what happened to AAP. So I feel, Faye, just quickly answer your question, that there is a great degree of, shall we say, intent within India Alliance, which obviously nobody said it publicly today, but they will work on it, is to see, is it possible to try and forge some kind of an alliance with supporters of the NDA. Now, it's workable, it's not workable. We can discuss that another time. But even if they were to be in the opposition, I think the India Alliance has a lot of hard work ahead. I'm feeling happy today, but I wouldn't be too romantically fascinated by the fact that there's still hard work ahead. And you never know with how the NDA and Mr. Modi can, try and even now try and maybe innovate or try and make the India Alliance susceptible to what we call as extraneous pressures.
So here's the question for me, right? With the NDA, at this point, Nitish and Chandrababu Naidu not seeming to, we don't know which way they're going, and the India Alliance is at 232. Would that structure actually be a stable structure for the country, in the interest of the country?
I feel, Faye, that coalitions, if the partners know that they have to make it happen because it is in their own personal interest more than even the mutual interest, it happens, it works. And I think one factor that I would like to throw up here, I would love to hear what other people have to say, is that this whole brutalization of the opposition using investigating agencies is something that has really terrified all players in their political ecosystem. They have all felt very vulnerable that, at the slightest, things they say or do, can these CBI and the ED and the income tax or whatever, even NIA, or some kind of crazy allegation be made against them? If they get that breathing space right now, let's assume hypothetically that the India Alliance is able to form the government. Entire 10 years, they have all lived under this extremely inexorable pressure of being put in the coolers. And if they get some kind of breathing space, they might just be able to get their act together and go and implement good policies which are inclusive, more secular, and economic policies that are good for industry as well as for the poor and the neo middle class.
So, actually, this is a question I want to take to the rest of the panel as well. If the India Alliance managed to cobble together a government, how stable would that be? But in opposition at 232, would that make Parliament far more democratic than it has been in the last term?
Well, obviously, it would be far more democratic. And you would have people like Mahua, who's got re-elected, and many more. There will be in a new parliament, there will be new stars. And it can't be this time that the Prime Minister can get away without answering Parliament whatsoever. So it's an open-ended question. Who would possibly benefit more from being in the opposition? Because the India bloc being in the opposition, constantly at the government's throat, and seemingly looking like forming the next government would be a different ballgame. The BJP, if it were to decide that we have 232 and our allies have ditched us, but staying together at 232, could very well play the game that Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi played when forced into opposition. Then say that you will become Prime Minister, another person will become Prime Minister, expose the inherent fragility. So I do think that if the India Alliance were to come out with a great big idea, a sellable idea, and they have it in them, if they were to say that history demands that we have a Dalit Prime Minister this time, they just might be able to have a big idea around which a lot of parties, even within the NDA, will not want to be seen as opposing it.
Aditya Menon, do you see that as a possibility? Because all of the buzz coming out of the BJP says very clearly Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a third term, though.
I don't see them giving up this as of now. I think as Nalin Kohli himself said, I think they will be after tomorrow's meeting. They will probably go through the processes of staking claim. So unlikely, but also depends on whether there is a pushback from within the BJP. That remains to be seen. Mr. Jha wants to say something.
No,
Yes.
Adit, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Faye, I just have to go for that show. So lovely being here, and sorry to interrupt you, Aditya. I'll
Can
catch
I
up on
just
this.
get one question in before you leave, Mr. Jha? Just one small question.
Sure.
Who do you think should be the leader of opposition from the Congress?
Why do you have to ask me such tough questions at the end of a long, hard day when it's 8 o'clock and I got to go for another show? So I'm just going to tell you, your guess is as good as mine.
Oh. No, then we'll tell you what our guesses are and you can blink once. But there was a
I can't hear. I'm partially deaf. I don't think you know that, but it has happened to me over the last couple of minutes.
All right, Sarjeet, thank you for
Bye.
joining us.
Thank you.
So it's really interesting right now, and so what I've picked up so far, it does seem like the BJP is sort of getting its ducks in a row before it's going forward to do anything else. But the Prime Minister putting out a statement saying we'll continue our good work, we're going to form the government. So he's assuring perhaps even BJP workers and everyone who's waiting that, hey, we have won this election. There's no doubt here, but they just want to get everything in order in the meantime. And I find that really interesting. I do also want to react to one thing, though. The Congress saying that they will meet tomorrow and then make decisions, I find so sarkari. Is that just a statement? Are they likely to be working through the night? Mr. Jha?
Of course, they'll be working through the night. They'll be working through the night. And I also want to tell you, Faye, that Chandrababu Naidu has cancelled media briefing.
Yes.
His press conference, and he says, I'll come to Delhi and I'll take my decisions. And as far as the BJP is concerned, I do think that they are going through the first stage of grief, which is denial. They insist that they are winning this election, when actually they have not won this election. This is not a victory. They have survived with 232 thanks to a whole host of factors, including their huge treasure trunks, including the corrupting of the institutions. Tomorrow, when people wake up and institutions also start biting, then it's a different ballgame.
I do want to ask this question though. Mallikarjun Kharge last night put out a letter that he also posted on Twitter asking the bureaucracy to refrain from and to find their integrity and not to participate in any sort of hanky-panky in the counting process. And it genuinely seemed after the exit polls that the opposition was afraid that the election could be toyed with in some way. Is that behind us? Because I know that on mainstream corporate media, they're saying, oh, so now you don't have a problem with the EVMs, now that you have won a fair number of seats. So I just want a round of comments from the panel on, does this put the EVM question to rest?
No,
and can
it
we
doesn't.
say now that we are confident about the process?
No. I have argued the matter in the Supreme Court. And there are several doubts. You may have an instrument. That instrument may be designed to work in a particular manner. But can it not work in another manner? No election commission has allowed access to the EVMs and an open hackathon, to put it beyond all reasonable doubt. Secondly, we had asked the Supreme Court that now that we have the VVPAT, have 100% counting of the VVPAT, because that gives us a greater measure of safety. Now, these are things insofar as the casting of votes is concerned. As far as the counting of votes is concerned, it ultimately goes down to the election officers who are the SDMs of the area. Now, we saw how election officers rejected the nomination of Sham Rangila, for instance. We have seen election officers in tight elections at the last minute saying that these postal ballots have come in, they have to be counted, or that these ballots are declared invalid, and suddenly declaring ones. So it was in those cases that Mr. Kharge's letter went out. And I dare say that if the India alliance had been at 100 or 150, it would have slipped much more dramatically. Once it came near that 200, 230 kind of thing, that's when people said that, look, I don't want a black mark on my record. Or the risk factor became too high. So I hope that there aren't people in the bureaucracy who still want to take a risk.
Mr. Mahan?
Yeah, I mean, Faye, one has been hearing this argument far too often now, and we need to address this squarely. So EVMs are no longer a problem, is what your corporate media is going around arguing now that the opposition has gotten. But no, common sense dictates. I mean, since when has India become such a great technological superpower that only our computers and our EVMs cannot be hacked? I mean, you look at any major advanced developed country in the whole world, from America to Germany to Australia to Japan, nobody's conducting elections through EVMs. So we've got to question first the basic central commonsensical question. How is it that our EVMs are supposed to be so completely tamper-proof? Secondly, any system can be good enough so long as people from within are not tampering with it. But the problem is not just about the EVMs. The problem is about compromised institutions and the behavior and the conduct and the manner in which they've run the entire electoral campaign in this election has raised serious question marks, serious doubts about the impartiality of the Election Commission of India. So I think those questions will continue to remain. It's great that the opposition has had a good performance, and to then try and make it seem like, oh no, everything is hunky-dory, the EVMs are fine, there is to be no question. Well, the BJP itself, lots of people have now forgotten, but actually, this is something that I wanted to tell even, what's his name, Nalin Kohli, when he was there and was talking about EVMs. Excuse me, there was a major BJP leader who actually wrote a whole book in 2009 questioning, at the time when the UPA came into power for a second time, and he raised all kinds of doubts. He actually wrote a whole book, and he was one of their chief national spokespersons, etc. You might recall. So
GVL Narasimha Rao.
Yes. So there's been a consistent doubt about the EVMs, and we need to address, as a nation, as a society, I think we need to address this. And we do need to go back again and again and again to that question in my head. How is it that America is not going through with EVMs? If they are so tamper-proof, how is it that every other country in the world, which is far more advanced than us, is continuing to go with normal ballots, and their elections are going through ballot papers, etc. So I think there is something serious, and it's not just about that somebody is, playing mischief, but we need to address this. And just one election and the opposition doing well in that election doesn't necessarily mean that all the questions that were raised around the EVMs have just should now just suddenly disappear. I don't agree with that.
Manishji, on the EVMs?
Basically, I don't have any that sort of deep opinion about EVM machines, but you asked the question about Kharge writing or issuing a statement to the bureaucracy. And if you remember that the wildfire on that note, if I use the term, was started by Jairam Ramesh when he claimed that Union Minister for Home Affairs, Amit Shah, had called up 150 district magistrates I think that was a very well coordinated.
District collectors. Yeah.
Because if you remember the press conference of Pappu Yadav in Purnia, I suppose he was leading. Last that I heard, he said that it would be Mahabharat tomorrow on the day of the counting, and everybody should come to the polling booths wearing kafan on their heads, because we have to wage a battle out there. So my concern is here that forget about EVM machines. Do you have your own people at each of the polling booths? If a polling booth has only BJP members, or for example just one political party's members, then you run the risks of absentee votes being cast by other proxies. So there are several risks. So what I suppose Kharge and Jairam Ramesh did and other opposition parties did was that on the day of the counting, they mobilized their workers to be very vigilant and go to the polling booths and to keep a check. And if they happen to do this on the day of the countings, on the day of votings, it would be much better, because we have a system of checks and balances. You have you have polling booth managers of different political parties. They keep checks on all the voters turning at the polling booths. So that has to be ensured first, which I suppose in many parts of the country had been missing. We have seen several of the videos from Gujarat, from Uttar Pradesh, one person casting 10, 12 votes. So that has to be ensured. I think that is the bigger challenge for the opposition parties.
Right. I'm going to leave it here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today and for your attention and your energy. I know it's been a long, exhausting day for everyone, and I really appreciate the fact that you have made time for us. I want to thank our audience, who's been absolutely amazing through the day. I've really enjoyed spending the day with you. Obviously, this is not over. We're going to continue to track all of the movements as it continues, but for now, we're leaving it here. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. This is Fede Souza. I'm signing off. We are, of course, trying to get other guests. If we get more people, we'll come back live again and we'll have more conversations. But for this conversation, thank you for watching.